Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is another lovely day right here on Working the Dash with TK. And I am so excited today to be with you once again. We are here. Thank you so much for joining. And as promised, 1:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, we went live and we are here today to talk about a very, very important topic as we are on the heels of what is to be recognized by the world as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I am so excited to welcome here a very phenomenal voice, brilliant mind in the area of education. We're going to talk today about the color of education. So I want you, while you're listening to me right now, to tag an educator, tag administrators, principals, and let's share this wonderful conversation with Dr. Letisha Malcolm. I know she is an ABD, which means all but dissertation, but she is nonetheless a doctor. And we are so happy for who she is and what she brings to this conversation. So without any further ado, I want you to help me to welcome none other than Letisha Malcolm. And we want to give you a hearty welcome to this stage because I believe you have such an amazing voice for this time in education. Education is certainly something that is very, very important, near and dear to your heart, as is to mine. However, I know that you work inside of that realm, and I just want to welcome you to Working the Dash. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is a very critical time in education in the world. So this is right on point, right on point.
Well, thank you so much for joining. And we're going to jump into the conversation and want to just kind of set a foundation and a premise for who you are and the expertise that you're going to bring today through your voice and through the voice of education. You are a candidate for a doctor of education. So can you talk to us first a little bit about who you are and what your wheelhouse is in education, if you will, and what your passionate about as it relates to Black history, American history, and how all of that should tie together in the educational system.
Yes. So to be honest, I never wanted to be an educator. I used to say to God, I said, I'm too good to be an educator. I wanted to do this. I was focusing in my humanities background. I wanted to focus on arts and cultural education. The thing is, I didn't understand how all of those different things would lead me to the point where I'm at now. I've been trying to get out of education since 2009. That's how much I didn't want to be a teacher. So I first started off in education, working in the Florida Department of Education in their Burrell division. They had a site in Daytona Beach, Florida, where I attended Mary McLeod Bethune's college, Bethune-Cookman University. And there is a big historical moment right now. They're replacing the Confederate statue with Mary McLeod Bethune. So great, amazing. And then I started subbing while doing my master's, started teaching in higher ed. I taught at 3 colleges so far. So just seeing the way that education was being played out for students of color when it came to history and culture, that's what really began to draw me. So I had a passion for music history, and I always would tell people that I can take a hymn, a slave song, and tell the history of our people through one song. Tell the history from North Africa down to Cape Town, just because we have so much rich history and we can see it and we can feel it in the verbs and the vibrations of music. So there was just many things that I began to see, and it led me to this point. While working on the beginning of my doctorate, I focused more on international education, global education. And that was mainly because after trying to argue with God for a couple of years, he said that, no, you're going to use this in academics and in ministry. And he showed me a vision of myself walking around the world with children from different cultures, bridging the gaps. So that began to develop in multi-perspectivity. And that's a big educational foundation, which is actually what I'm writing my dissertation on, is multi-perspectivity in history education, because we see now there's going to be a lot of little kids, oh, okay, America is celebrating Dr. King. America hated Dr. King. So that's that multiple perspective where we can celebrate and recognize the good, but then also we have to bring out what was actually happening in history. So we see that big argument of critical race theory. A lot of people that are talking about it, they haven't really brought out the tenets and things like that. So it's just things like that that have really built the foundation of my desires for education and my philosophy on education.
I really thank you for setting that premise and that foundation. And you bring up a very great point, very valid point about even how we have shaped Black history in our minds as Black people. And, how Black history is so limited to what we have been exposed to. And I just want you to kind of talk a little bit about the responsibility of African Americans relative to African American or Black history.
Yes. So I'll even go back to the Bible. We see so many people that are they deny Christ, or they just are not believing just because they feel that, oh, okay, these are made up stories. But then when it comes to Black people, when it comes to African Americans, it's because Christianity has been weaponized. How could you serve a white God that did this? White Jesus did this. Well, I always tell people the oldest Christian Bible is in Africa. The first formulation, the full complete formulation, again, the oldest Christian Bible is in Africa, Ethiopia, the Coptic Ethiopians. And then we also can, once we actually do a study of the Bible, we see our history throughout the scripture. We see Makeba, we see Queen Candace, we see the eunuch. So we see that Christianity was spread throughout Africa before it even touched some of North Europe. They were pagans while we were worshiping. So things like that is the reason why I feel that we have to take a responsibility to really be thorough in our history teaching of our children, especially as Christians, to combat a lot of things that were weaponized. And then also within the educational system, one of the key documents that I'm using is the 1916 Commission on Education through then the Bureau of Education, now Department of Education. Author William Dunn, in their formulation of social studies, this was during the Jim Crow era, said that slavery did not need to be taught because it wasn't an important part of what was going on at that moment. Again, this was in the 1900s. We coming off of Emancipation Proclamation in the 1860s, we hear someone who has the power to tell our story deny our story. And then we see it all throughout history. We have, some people have settled for talking about Dr. King. The first time I was in an 8th grade U.S. history class, which is what I'm doing my research on, I pretty much had to argue with my white students. I was teaching in Virginia. And they said, well, they wanted to be slaves. They got paid. They were indentured servants. The book actually removed slavery. And there are so many books. I know that the New York Times and several other foundations have actually done an analysis of history books throughout time to where the word slavery is not there, but immigration is there. That's how important it is for us to take on the responsibility and not leave it up to the school system. And even taking it out of history, a lot of people are upset. Well, the school needs to be back in so my children can learn. 100% correct. But are you also teaching your child? If situated.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And that's the thing, what have we been exposed to enough to where we can expand the knowledge base of African American history in this, during this time frame. It's almost unfortunate, Dr. Malcolm, that we can only hear and somewhat see African American history in the month of February, or it's celebrated on a highlighted day such as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. By no means are we downing these days or those moments, but I think strategically in history and in education, it is very important that teachers and educators, administrators, school superintendents begin to rally for the taught process of Black history. I see behind you, you have very well versed books and things of that nature. And I just want everybody to know that that is not a virtual background. As you can see, she is actually reaching on her bookshelf, and this is one reason why I wanted to bring her to the fore of this conversation during this time, because it is so important on the heels of when we celebrate or honor Dr. Martin Luther King, that we also start to take into consideration that we need more than just honoring a man during a specific day. This is something that needs to become household conversation. It's something that needs to be spread abroad. We need to understand why Martin Luther King was so important. I mean, his existence was not solely because he decided to take a stand, but his existence is also on the shoulders of so many others prior to even his era, and the things in such impactful ways, and things that he did for Black Americans. And so I just wanted to be very, very thought out here that we have a problem. Yes, we do recognize the problem, but we also are voices to solution. And that's what you're doing right now in your background, is taking books, sitting down and reading those books, and starting to understand. I mean, if we read the stories and the history even behind Dr. Martin Luther King, we will find that there are so many hidden treasures that surpass walking, and surpass boycotting, and surpass being thrown in jail for a belief over a color of a skin. It's so much past that. It's education that's piped into that. So kind of speak to why this history is so important, and what educators can do to start to help push this conversation a little bit forward.
Yes. So you mentioned about him being being in that place. So just to get churchy for just a little bit. So a lot of times we talk about I'm next, but we're not doing the work to be next. We're not doing the work to be in the place to be next. Sometimes I always struggled with, I'm not necessarily that prim and proper church girl. I'm not all the person that's always taking the pictures of my hats and everything like that during some of the conventions and all of that. I'm normally the ones that's doing some type of forum or in some type of forum, and I'm the girl that's always posting books. But then I started to realize people were paying attention to that. When people begin to communicate with me, and I'm not just talking about friends or people, passerbyers that's just looking at your page, people in government, people that have been national leaders, when they begin to hear me talk, they say, wow. And then I understood the power of education. I understood that we talk about that knowledge is power, but knowledge is currency as well. Extreme currency. And then going back to your point regarding that it should not stop at Dr. King. So we see a lot of the Mae Jemisons and the Toni Morrisons, Barack Obama, all of those people. This book, look how thick this book is. I haven't even begun to finish half of it. This is nowhere in our history books in school. So we have to take that we have to take that effort to actually go and support not just your children, but something that I'm in the process of working on, of course, after I have some more free time, is setting up either whether it be virtual or community programs to where I can just go and teach history, because there's so much that we don't even realize. We don't even realize how much we impacted the advancement of medicine just by people involuntary taking our cells, taking our blood, taking our brains to do research on. We have no idea how important it is when we have these devices. I would tell my students, I often say, oh, we on Bill Gates' internet. Al Gore's internet. And then we talk about, Bill Gates so much with the computer, but there was a chip that was also invented that could not run without it, and a black man created that. We think about the super soaker. There's so many inventions that are left out of the narrative of American history that we must display. Why? Because that's also going to impact the way that your youth views themselves. I can view myself out of the realm of a Boys in the Hood movie. I can view myself out of the realm of Lover, a Beyonce. I can view myself out of the realm of I'm Michael Johnson, Magic Johnson, and all of the basketball play athletics. But we can view ourselves in the fact that I can be a Charles Drew. We can view ourselves in the fact that I have the code that's needed to keep the internet running. That's amazing to me, that your knowledge, your voice, your presence has the ability to sustain. And that's where we want to get ourselves to, but we know that through our history. So I just wanted to just break. Sorry if I just went off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, that's absolutely, I mean, that brings me to such a wonderful point about how we see ourselves outside of what we have been categorized as. We've been categorized in the realm of athletics, and again, nothing bad about these things. I don't knock them, but I do want us to really start training a generation to see yourself as an astronaut. As I just saw on Cheddar News, I'm a big Cheddar News head. I'm a Cheddar head, and I absolutely love Cheddar News. And I understand they are literally right now looking for astronauts out of a class of so many hundreds of people. Only 12 were accepted. I saw one black man, one one black man as an astronaut. And so it really begs the question now, how do we start to see ourselves outside of what we have been categorized as? Do we continue? Is that a form of slavery? It's a heavy question, but you have to start asking yourself, without us on the court, without us on the field, how much power do we really have if we put that same work into, yes, I see Cassandra saying it's the power of vision. If we put that same power into engineering, if we put that same power into STEM programs for our young people, and not just saying, hey, I want you to just go play sports. And you know, it's hard to kind of separate both, but that's why even being an athlete, it's so important that we train young men and young women, even in athletics, to shoot for educational backgrounds that actually are rooted in the sources of engineering and mathematics and technology. Like you said, I mean, it always, you know, my brain kind of works somewhat differently, and I understand I'm a little quirky. And so but I often wonder, these are the questions I ask Dr. Malcolm. I wonder who made the little wheel that goes on the buggy. Like, what keeps the buggy running? You know what? You know, when we're in the store, who put the handles on the basket? And you know, do we have the technological base? Are we strong enough to put our young people in a position, or have people like yourself who are brought before government officials to say, hey, this is the history? And please share the name of that book. Put it back up again, because I'm actually very interested in it myself. It says Black First, and it's 4,000 pioneering Black people, historical movements. You know, I had the grand opportunity to go to the Smithsonian Museum, and I my mind was blown. I was in there literally over 6. I was one of the ones that they were like, ma'am, it's time to go. We're closed. Not we're closing. We're closed. The bookstore's closed. All the people are going home. We're done today. Because my mind was just blown to the fact that we haven't scratched the surface of anything that most of these people had to go through to break the color lines of getting the education. We have access. Talk about that. Talk about that.
So that is so important. The access, while there are still issues, while there's problems when it comes to certain poor areas and their ability to get the proper books, their ability to have the proper funding. And yes, that still happens in this 2021, 2021. So, I mean, 2022. So it is still happening today, but it's the fact that we have access. So something that I've told my students, and I've, like I said, I've taught from the fifth grade on to higher education, that the fact that we have the ability to walk in a school and get an education that our ancestors' feet were chopped off for. The fact that we have the ability to get a library card, and I'm not even talking about 100 years ago, but in the 60s, you couldn't even walk in. That's amazing to me. And again, yes, there are still problems, but the fact that we have access, so that means, what are you doing with your access? There are people who have limited access of resources. One picture that I love to look at, they have this one old picture of Jeff Bezos during the impetus of creating Amazon. He was in his garage. Now he's the richest man in the world. I went from my garage with an idea. Now people like me can't get off of Amazon and Amazon Prime. I said, Jeff needs to just start paying me for buying all this stuff. Okay. Just give me money. Okay. But we have to recognize the power even of limited access. We talk about open doors a lot, which I thank God for. I thank God for all of the opportunities, all of the resources. But then I was in reflection and I said, with nothing, God still allowed me to do great things. So take that access, even though the system may still be flawed in certain areas, and take the access and run with it, because your limited access could open the doors not only for you, your family, but for many that's going to come after you. Dr. Martin Luther King, his access to education, his ability to graduate early, his ability to be a young person getting a doctorate degree, his ability to be chosen. We are still talking about this man after he's dead. And that's the thing. What he did with his access, he decided to be that voice. When he signed up to be the leader or to be that voice for, with the Montgomery bus boycott, Rosa Parks, they selected him to be that voice. He also signed up to be beat. He also signed up to have his house bombed, fire. He also signed up for all of these various things. So for all the people, I know God's going to be careful. And something that I'm learning, I'm also signing up for all the other things. I'm also signing up to be isolated, to be talked about, to have people look at, going through my social media, things like that. So when you sign up even for something great, you have to be prepared for the things that are going to come to, opposition as well. So taking that access to education, you have no idea what your limited access, and even out of the areas of education, but your limited access could open the doors for so many others. So take advantage of it. I don't care if it's going into a community college. I don't care if it's vocational program. There's a Harvard edX, which offers free courses. You can take the verified route. You can take the actual course route. You can literally right now go to edx.org and take a course at Yale University by their professors without having the Yale tuition. So there's so many opportunities. So if I said this, someone was complaining about the pandemic. Oh, we can't worship and we can't this. I said, you get on your phone and talk still. Get on your phone and go and get an education. Even if it's not a formal education, read a book, read an article. Okay, so I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Sorry.
You know, it's such good information. It's hard to hear because you know what? definitely making sure that we are in the realm of this educational sphere and understanding that we do have the power. I want to just lift again that you said edx.org, and it's, I hope that I spelled it correctly,
Yes.
because I had not heard of that. But that's what these communities are for, is to understand how we can empower ourselves and how we can choose, we can make the choice to empower others. You have to make the choice. There's no sense of us having the information of an edx.org and then holding the information. There's something that we
Mm.
can do. Your voice is powerful. It's valuable, and it's something that we need to understand. This is how education is colored, and it's colored the right way, not colored outside of the lines, not colored to the color of somebody else's paintbrush, but it is colored on the canvas of those of us who are willing to impart educational resources and time. So I appreciate this platform that you have come on this morning, or this afternoon rather, just to talk about, again, on the heels of when we will celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s date of birth. I'm just so happy that you were able to come on and share just a little bit about our responsibility to American history, our responsibility to African American history, and our responsibility as Black America, and our case in how we approach education. So I really appreciate your time, Dr. Malcolm. And let's just, as we close this broadcast, I want to talk a little bit about Go Global. You are all but dissertation, and for those that see her name on here, it's listed as Letisha Malcolm EDD candidate. And the reason why it's candidate is because she is what we consider in the realm of education ABD, all but dissertation, meaning that she has completed the coursework that makes her eligible to start a dissertation, and she's in the process of writing dissertation right now. So I keep referring to her as Dr. Malcolm because hopefully pretty soon we will see cap and gown, and we will see that certified degree. But I thank you so much for sharing your time. But you have an LLC, and it is called Go Global, and you are in this educational field. You're out here making impact and imprint. I actually saw you with senators and representatives. It made me so proud just to know that you were out there. And I also saw that you've just been recently honored with an award in Baltimore for your imprint in education. So just talk a little bit about Go Global and how we can connect with you, and maybe how we can share with you in our efforts to make Black history something that we all need to embrace in the realm of education.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. So as I stated at the beginning, this desire of mine came from God. It came from God saying, okay, well, you love history, you love culture, you love people. Use this to bridge a gap between the various cultures. Yes, you can talk about the things that the issues, but also use it to bridge a gap. Use it so that you can actually go to other cultures, other countries, nations, tribes, tongues. Sometimes I would hashtag that because I want people to understand how powerful your ministry is when you look at it from a different perspective, whether it be vocational, regardless of whatever you're in. I don't care if you work at Denny's. Catch on to how you can impact someone who's about to commit suicide while you serving them their food, and then you will it'll click to you. Okay, well, this is a ministry moment. So Go Global Education, my focus is educating, leading, and advocating. When it comes to avocation, it's all about speaking up for those who cannot speak for themselves. And that you can find that in Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9. I wanted to be the girl that focused on, I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. And God was like, nope, I want you to stick right there at verse 8 and 9. You speak up for those that are oppressed. But God, I want to speak up for those that are oppressed. And he got me right there. Stay right there at verse 8 and 9. So, and then also when it comes to leadership, not only do I desire leadership, but I want to train leaders. And that starts from kindergarten. That starts from that 1-year-old who can barely maybe walk or talk, but in their learning, they can learn little leadership roles. We call it gradual responsibility. Start developing leadership skills in children at a young age. So imagine Sometimes we baby longer than what we need to. But imagine having 8, 9 year olds, and you can go to YouTube and watch a couple of them on during their speech on TED Talks, actually see how their imprint our impact can just impact the world as a whole. So that's just my focus with global education. Most of it is yes, just sharing information. So regardless of various fields, we've had conversations when it comes to mentorship, because mentorship is extremely important. Sometimes we'll leave people out there. Oh, okay, you'll do a great job. Well, show me, how can I continue to do a great job? Show me the correction, the support, all of those various things. So that's when it comes to that leadership. So education, leadership, and advocacy, that's just my key focus as of right now. And I won't say everything, but right now, I have a hashtag walk pretty. I was recently diagnosed with MS, and sometimes I can't walk. Sometimes I've had some issues with my hands, and I was complaining to God this week, crying. And he said, it's not just for you. I was like, what you mean though, God? What's going on? And so this is not just for those that have heavy burdens, heavy journeys. Well, not just for you, but how are you going to help the other women whose journey is heavy and you want them to walk pretty? So there are some things that are being developed right now within Global. And it's amazing how God will speak to you through your pain. So.
Well, I really appreciate you for taking this time out to join me today to talk about the color of education. And I want everybody out there that would actually share. I know we are celebrating. This is the big D9 week for a lot of the sisterhood. And today, on this very day, J15, we celebrate and honor the beautiful sisters of AKA that sorority out there. And I just have some girlfriends out there that I know that they're out there partying hard and partying in the best way possible, in the most sanctified way that they know how to do. I'm just gonna throw that out there too. So I got some girlfriends out there that's actually doing that. So I do wish those beautiful women of Alpha Kappa Alpha a great day. And so you had on those beautiful pink earrings and you came on in. And so even on this day, I appreciate you for coming in and talking about how we can make educational choices that will bring Black history to the forefront, and how we can certainly make our impact as parents, teachers, advocates, and trainers and leaders. We can make that our responsibility. And so again, we thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the best in your dissertation. Thank you so much. How much longer do we have to go here?
So I hopefully I can finish my research phase by April and defend either in May or August, September, depending on how my dissertation chair moves me along.
Well, this is amazing. Hopefully it's happening. It's happening right now, and it's happening in 2022. So I wish you all the best. We're not going to be concerned about the months, but we are going to pray God's favor and blessing upon you and your journey. And we will soon remove candidate, and we will see Dr. Letisha Malcolm and all that you're doing with Go Global and so many other things that you're doing. Thank you so much out there. Those of you who have joined, if you see someone out there, yes, I see one of my sorors. She is laughing because she knows that we're celebrating J15 today, but somebody say J16. It's coming. It's coming tomorrow. We're coming with the heat. We're coming in with the blue. True Blues are walking through, and the Zeta girls will be on the set. So, yes, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who missed edx.org, visit that, get you a certification. You can get certified, take you a course. Hey, she just told you, you have a chance to be taught by a Yale instructor without having to pay the money of a Yale student. So let's get certified. Let's do what we have to do to make our lives great. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Malcolm, for joining me today. Thank you all out there. For those of you who, please tag an administrator, share this. It's going to be out there on all the other platforms that this is casting from. It's already out there. I'm going to be sharing it again. We're going to be premiering this live again, just for those who've missed it. Many opportunities to go back and just grab some of these wonderful nuggets. Thank you so much for you all taking out time right here on Working the Dash with TK. Look out. We'll be back again on Monday. We have some more wonderful information that's going to be happening on the day of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And you have a birthday that you share with whom? Tell us.
Yes, it has always been my claim to fame. And to be honest, I was sometimes, you have those conversations in your mind with what God told me to do. I say, God, I was born on Martin Luther King's birthday and my last name is Malcolm. King, Malcolm X. I take it.
See, that's amazing. So I wanted to definitely, this was just God ordained. So thank you so much for joining. I see Dr. Carla Galbraith on here, and she sits in high places.
High.
Yes, high places, serving as principal in her area and made some wonderful moves. She is certainly the AKA, and I just want to tell her thank you so much for joining as an administrator and for someone who's making great impact in the school system. So thank you all so much for joining. Share this broadcast. If it has blessed you in any kind of way, please, you can donate to Working the Dash by just Cash Apping $ Working the Dash or going to workingthedash.com. You can donate there as well. We're doing some wonderful things out here in the community. Thank you all so much. Have a great, wonderful, and safe J15. Pretty in pink. You ladies have a wonderful day. God bless. Take care. Be well. See you later.